Ladies and gentlemen, after World War II, Japan desired to regain prestige amongst the international community when it adopted its new constitution and committed to protect fundamental rights, particularly the right of Japanese people to freedom of religion or belief. However, Japan has retained a very troubling exception to civil liberties in its constitution and laws to this very day, in the name of public welfare. This vague and open-ended restriction to individual freedoms is not worthy of a democracy, but would rather belong in a banana republic or a dictatorship where opposition movements or undesired minorities are labeled as contrary to the public welfare, with the state deciding what constitutes the welfare of citizens. It is particularly questionable when it comes to freedom of religion or conscience. Yet, based on this vague and arbitrary notion, the Japanese authorities are now on the verge of dissolving the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, formerly named the Unification Church, a religious corporation that has gathered around 600,000 followers in Japan. This is the reason why, on October 1st, 4 United Nations special rapporteurs have issued a press release to publicly express their concerns about this alarming situation in Japan. Let's now examine the context of such a situation. The Japanese members of the Unification Church have been harassed and stigmatized in Japan over the last decades. They have often been treated as if they were an ethnic minority, accused of being anti-Japan due to the fact that the founders of the church are a Korean couple, Reverend Moon and his wife, and the church itself originated in Korea. Historically, Japanese people have often harbored a sense of superiority over Koreans and tended to look down on them in the wake of the past colonization of Korea by Japan. This dynamic contributed to severe rejection by families when one of their members joined the Unification Church, driven by 3 reasons rooted in ethnic prejudice: the fact that the founders are Korean, the religion's Korean origins, and the fear that believers might be forced into marriages with Koreans. This prejudice has been instrumental in leading families to resort to violent deprogramming of their kin who had joined the church. For nearly half a century, the government has given carte blanche to extreme anti-cult lawyers and consensual religions to organize the deprogramming of Unification Church members by force. That is, kidnappings by trickery and illegal confinements by families, followed by imposed indoctrination against the church beliefs by Protestant pastors. Thousands of parents were abused and talked into subjecting their adult children believers to deprogramming. Then, those members were pressured by their deprogrammers and lawyers to file financial claims against the church to prove their real intention to abandon the faith and to be released from confinement. This resulted in a number of civil litigation against the church over the last 4 decades, led by politically motivated lawyers, the network of lawyers against spiritual sales, who had pledged to eliminate the Unification Church due to its fight against atheistic communism in Eastern Asia. Then came the assassination of Japan's Prime Minister, which was seen as a timely opportunity by these lawyers. In 2022, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was shot dead by a man who held a grudge against the church due to his mother's past donations some 20 years before. He reportedly targeted Abe because of his support to some church humanitarian activities. After the murderer's arrest, a media blitz started against the Unification Church, initiated by the Lawyers Network. At a press conference held by the network in July 22, in response to the assassination, the lawyers, one after the other, vehemently condemned the Unification Church. They stated that Abe's assassin and his mother were 100% the victims and the cult 100% the perpetrator. They described the church as antisocial and great evil. The lawyers and the media who were out to get the church pinned an anti-Japan tag on it due to its Korean origin. Then the sentiment that a Korean-originated religion caused the assassination of Japan's former prime minister ignited anti-Korean hate sentiment amongst Japanese people. What had previously been confined to family-level hate emotions expanded into state-level hate sentiments. The media frenzy put pressure on the Japanese government to sever all ties with the church, and under the accusations from the Lawyers Network making them responsible for the situation, the government officials initiated a dissolution procedure against the religious corporation. This is how the ministry which oversees religious matters, in October 2023, filed a request for dissolution at the Tokyo District Court and maintained the following, quote, "From around 1980 to 2023, Unification Church believers caused significant damage to many people by making them donate, by restricting their free decision and preventing their normal judgment," that's the accusation of brainwashing, "which resulted in disrupting the peaceful life of many people, including the family members." In its claim of disruption of peaceful life, the ministry relied on 32 adverse civil court decisions in cases filed by former members after their deprogramming, for facts dating from 20 to 14 years before. In all those cases, the civil courts found torts based on violation of, quote, social appropriateness or social norms, some vague and unwritten criteria which allowed arbitrary condemnations. On this basis, the Tokyo District Court issued a ruling on March 25th this year, ordering the dissolution pursuant to Article 81 of the Law on Religious Corporation, which provides that a court may order dissolution if, in violation of laws and regulations, the religious corporation commits an act which is clearly found to harm public welfare substantially. The court found that the church violated social norms and therefore violated the law, although those norms are unwritten and undefined. They actually do not meet the criterion of predictability for being prescribed by law under the requirements of any limitation to freedom of religion or belief laid out at Article 18.3 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which Japan has signed and committed to. The district court's order of dissolution has been appealed at the Tokyo High Court and is currently pending review. Now let's examine the concepts of public welfare and social appropriateness or social norms under international human rights standards. The UN Human Rights Committee, which has been created by the Covenant to monitor its implementation by state parties, has consistently urged Japan to stop using the notion of public welfare to limit freedom of religion or belief. Japan ratified the Covenant in 1979 and therefore accepted the committee's authority for this monitoring. Since 1980, so 1 year later, the committee has denounced the inclusion in Japanese law of the concept of public welfare to limit freedom of religion or belief and made the following recurrent demand, quote, "The committee reiterates its concern that the concept of public welfare is vague and open-ended, and urges the state party to refrain from imposing any restriction on the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion unless they fulfill the strict conditions set out in Article 18. Indeed, Article 18.3 of the Covenant provides, quote, "Freedom to manifest one's religion or beliefs may be subject only to such limitations as are prescribed by law and are necessary to protect public safety, order, health or morals, or the fundamental rights and freedoms of others." So, if protection of public safety or public order can possibly allow limitations, on the contrary, protection of public welfare is not included in the list, which has to be strictly interpreted and does not allow any restriction to this freedom. It can be concluded that the Japanese authorities have known for 45 years that they had to review their internal laws in order to conform to the Covenant, but have consistently refused to do so under fake pretense and therefore have consistently violated their international commitments. They are actually about to eliminate an entire religion on this illegal basis. Additionally, the concept of social appropriateness or social norms opens the door to discrimination and domination by consensual religions, like what happened with the Protestant deprogrammers. It directly conflicts with all the standards set by the Human Rights Committee in its comment number 22 on Article 18, and I quote, "The terms belief and religion are to be broadly construed. Article 18 is not limited in its application to traditional religions or to religions and beliefs with institutional characteristics or practices analogous to those of traditional religions. The committee therefore views with concern any tendency to discriminate against any religion or belief for any reason, including the fact that they are newly established or represent religious minorities that may be the subject of hostility on the part of a predominant religious community. Therefore, in the absence of any statute law violation or crime, public opinion hostility can never be a justification for courts to limit the right to manifest one's religion or beliefs on the basis of religious practices lacking so-called social appropriateness or violating social norms. Yet, this has been the basis for the 32 civil court decisions on which the dissolution order was issued. This is the reason why 4 UN top experts in each of their areas of competence, the special rapporteurs to the Human Rights Council for freedom of religion or belief, for minority issues, for freedom of association and assembly, and freedom of education, have issued a public statement on October 1st to warn Japan to not limit the manifestation of religion or belief unduly outside the limitations strictly provided at Article 18.3 of the Covenant. Let's hope that Japan, through the Tokyo High Court, will now review the legal basis of the first instance decision and reconsider the whole dissolution issue in order to comply with these requirements. Thank you.